says, as Harry's reading, I'm going to ask us to kind of like put away the other thoughts of our mind, just to think, what's this saying to me? What is this saying today to me? Let's think about that as...
Luke 13 verse 22. Then Jesus went through the towns and villages, teaching as he made his way to Jerusalem. Someone asked him, Lord, are only a few people going to be saved? He said to them, make every effort to enter through the narrow door, because many, I tell you, will try to enter and will not be able to. Once the owner of the house gets up and closes the door, you will stand outside knocking and pleading, Sir, open the door for us. But he will answer, I don't know you or where you've come from. Then you will say, we ate and drank with you, and you taught in our streets. But he will reply, I don't know you or where you have come from. Away from me, you evildoers. There will be weeping there and gnashing of teeth when you see Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, all of the prophets of the kingdom of God, but yourselves thrown out. People will come from east and west and north and south and will take their places at the feast in the kingdom of God. Indeed, there are those who are last will be first, and those who are first will be last.
Thank you very much, Harry. What a great job. We encourage Harry to reading in front of the rest of us. It's tough when you're that young to read like that in front of all this ugly mob. So, well, I'm talking about the men. That's all. Not the women right there. Thank you very much, Harry. What a great passage. The title of our lesson today is, are you curious or are you serious? Are you curious or are you serious? Of course, it's good to be curious. The advancement of science and many things depends upon curiosity, but curiosity is not an end in itself. And I sense that this, well, for me, summarizes the essence of what Jesus is dealing with here. Are the people around him, are the people listening to him, are even the people who are following him curious, and that's it? Or are they serious? And I don't think that's something that was only applicable to Jesus and his day. I think it's applicable still to today. And it may be even applicable to, well, I would say it is applicable to every single one of us in this room on one level or another as we sit here today. So can I ask you, there's a thread all the way through what we're looking at today to be asking yourself, in what ways am I simply curious? And in what ways am I serious in my spiritual life, in my following of Jesus Christ, in my taking in of what he is teaching into not only my head, but into my life? Curious or serious today? Now let me ask you this, and let me get a little bit of sharing here. So, at the end of this passage, which we'll talk about more in a minute, the big deal is that people who expected to be in the kingdom found themselves locked out, shut out, and I guess it must have, with the kingdom in this, with the banquet feast, it must have had windows. Because it has windows, because they can see inside. There's Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. I don't know how they recognize them, but anyway, perhaps they had name tags. They're like, look, there's Abraham, look, there's Isaac, there's Jacob. And the prophets, there's Jeremiah, there's Hosea, but we're supposed to be in there, Jesus. This is what's going on. They're like, we're supposed to be with Jeremiah and with Abraham, but why are we out here? They're surprised. They're not only surprised, I'd say they're shocked. They're like, you cannot be serious. Well, the problem is they haven't been serious, but we'll come back to that in a minute. But so let me ask you this. From whence would you be amazed if you couldn't get in, if you were shut out? Where would you, like if you couldn't get in, where would you be surprised? Where would you be like, that doesn't make any sense? Where would that be? Back row. Your own home. You go home from church today, you put your key in the lock, and it won't. Someone's changed the locks. Or maybe you haven't got your key, and you knock on the door, and your spouse opens the door, and they're like, who are you? I don't know you or where you've come from. Away from me, you evildoer. That'd be an interesting marriage counselling session, but okay, your own home. Where else? Where else would we be surprised and shocked to not be let in?
Work or school.
Work, go to work. Okay, you turn up at work.
Yes,
And they're like, you know, who are you? We don't work here. Okay, another one? Yeah, Maritza? South African border. You turn up at the border. You're there in the airport. You're going through immigration. You think you're in the right line if you're South African, and you show your passport, and they're like, rejection. Go back to where you came from. That would be a bit of a shock if you were South African. Okay, where else? Yeah, Marlon. Church. Okay, so in this scenario, we have bouncers on the door. We have Alex on the door. Okay, we have Alex on the door. Which one? Both Alexes and Wale. Okay, all right. We have the men with the biggest necks. Not stiff necks, just big necks. Okay. And we have the men with the biggest necks on the door, and you're like, you know, you try the door, and it's being held shut from the inside. You're like, I'm a member here. I give contribution. I need a family group. You're like, wait, we don't know you. Away from us, you evildoer. I mean, we could go along on a list, right? I mean, there are places where all of us expect to get in, and we will be shocked. And indeed, we will be angry. The gnashing of teeth in this passage, the weeping is weeping and wailing, but the gnashing is an expression of anger. That's not a gnashing as in a frustration or something like that. It's anger. It's actually rage. They're enraged. And we would be angry if we weren't allowed in. And the issue here, I think, is the difference between curiosity and seriousness.
Wow.
Which are we, curious or serious? And the chap asks the question, I mean, this is the $1 million question, isn't it, at the beginning of this. Jesus is teaching, he's on his way to Jerusalem, which is Luke reminding us his direction is towards the cross. That's why he's, I think, put that in there. And on his way, someone says, are only a few going to be saved? Only a few. Now, that's a very interesting question if you're an Israelite. Because generally in that culture at that time, most people in Israel thought that just about everybody who's an Israelite is absolutely going to make it. Like, you'd have to, as long as you're circumcised, you're going to make it. You'd have to be a really rebellious Israelite. I mean, you'd have to be like completely heathenized. It's not really a real word, but anyway, paganized or something. You'd have to be completely rebellious or unbelievably hypocritical, or you're going to make it. So the fact that he asks the man, and the man asks Jesus, are only a few, I think indicates that Jesus is sowing seeds of doubt, that his teaching is going against the flow. Rather than everybody's going to make it, something Jesus is saying is making the people around him think, oh, hang on, I thought everybody was pretty much going to make it. Are you saying only a few? What's going on here? And so he asks this question. And as Jesus answers the question, he answers the question, as is so often his method, not talking to the person, or even giving a completely direct answer, yes or no, but giving a story. And then instead of talking to the man, it says, he said to them. He said to them. So this applies not just to the person speaking. This is about all that would hear Jesus and hear what he is really all about. So, a couple of points here. First of all, there is no try. I think part of what Jesus is saying is there is no try. There is do, or there is do not. The wisdom of Yoda. That deeply spiritual individual giving us much spiritual truth. Do or do not. There is no try. Make every effort, Jesus says. Make every, not some effort, not a bit of effort, not partial effort, not the effort to satisfy your grandmother, but every effort. For the geeks or the nerds amongst us, which film is this from, by the way? Star Trek. Who said that? It's not Return of the Jedi.
That's the first one.
Empire Strikes Back. Okay, whoever got that. Okay, whoever got that knows what's about. The Empire Strikes Back is, I think originally it was first in, maybe in one of the other films as well. This is kind of, I think, what Jesus is talking about here. It's every effort. Now let me ask you this question, all right, something else to ask you. When you're making every effort in any area, we're not just talking about spiritually, all right, anything, you're making every effort, how does it feel? How do you know, not just by action, but by what you're thinking or by what you're feeling, how do you know it's every effort? How does every effort feel? What's the thinking in it, David?
Feel tired afterwards.
Tired. Okay, there's always some tiredness afterwards. Yes, as a result. Yes, Caroline.
Consuming.
It's consuming. Okay, yeah, that's a good word. Yeah.
Absence of doubt.
An absence of doubt. Right. That's very good. Yeah.
Everyone around you can see your effort.
Okay, others would notice it. Not only would you know you were making every effort, but it would be noticeable to others. Okay, good. Yeah. Anything else?
I think it's hard.
It's hard. It would feel hard. Yeah.
Feel fulfilling.
Fulfilling. All right. The feeling inside will often be one of fulfillment. We're making every effort. Richard.
You don't care if it's difficult.
You don't care if it's difficult. So you might notice it's difficult, but that's not your focus, right? Because somebody else put it to me the other day. There's a motivation there. There's a depth of motivation, which means that although it's hard, you kind of don't notice so much. Somebody else had a hand up. Albert. Secure. Yes, okay. It's kind of a confidence that you alluded to as well, Rudy. There's a confidence that comes when we're making every effort. And Anna, last one for this.
Just very pleased with myself.
Feeling very pleased with oneself. I'm making every effort. Oh, good. I'm glad about that. Yes. Now, okay, second question, follow up. What do you think it would look like as far as Jesus is concerned? Either in the day, when Jesus is in this situation, or for someone today who wants to follow. Give me throw some things out. What would it look like? What would it, not just feel like, but what would it look like for someone to make every effort to enter through the narrow door? What would you think Jesus might have been thinking?
You want your heart to be in it.
Okay, the heart is in it. So, all right, I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. Thank you. Rather than superficiality, there's a heart, fullness of heart in it. Yeah.
I think you'd be really at odds with the environment you live in society.
Okay, so society might be doing one thing, going one way, but you're going a different way. That kind of idea. Yeah, Rudy?
You will prioritize things of the kingdom above other things.
Okay, once you know what the priorities of the kingdom are, you will prioritize those as opposed to other things you may in the past have been prioritizing. There'll be a shift of priorities. Good. Okay, anything else? What else? Yes, CJ.
I think it's kind of building a constant relationship with God. Because it says the key is that I don't know you. Mm-hmm. So it's...
Okay, good. I don't know you is the thing. And again, we're going to come on to that a little bit more. But it's the building of a relationship. It's not just a one-time event. It's a consistent thing. Yeah. Okay, good. Yes, Jane.
I was going to say along that that connection, that sort of daily connection. I mean, I know sort of in marriage, like I can know Chris and we can be together, but it's very different. You know when you're actually connected.
You know when you're connected. You can feel it, you can sense it, it matters. It makes a difference to the way you relate to one another.
Yeah.
Okay, and to other people too. Good. Tim.
I think it involves loving Jesus.
Loving him.
Loving him.
Okay, it's about love. Okay. Because we're not talking about here academic effort. We're talking about a relationship. Okay, so a couple of thoughts here. Again, I think this is how Yoda would do the pie chart. There's do and there's do not. There is no try, right? This is not on the page. It's not in the picture here. So here's how I view it. So let's imagine that the service is over. I'm going to finish here in about 10-15 minutes. Another song, and then we're done. The children are somewhere else in the building. So we're done, and many of us would like to get tea, coffee, or one of those really good homemade flapjacks they have in the cafe, which are awesome. My favourite thing here. Well, I mean, church is my favourite thing. Flapjacks come a close second. So we're done, all right? We're final song, and then all of a sudden we notice that all the doors are locked. Every door's locked. There's that door, the toilet door, the cupboard doors, that door. I mean, all the doors are locked, right? And it doesn't matter for a couple of minutes, but then it's a bit inconvenient. Firstly, parents, you want to find your children. Also, some of us, might want to use the toilet, and we might be getting a bit desperate. And then we've got things to do. We've got We've got to get the kids ready for school for Monday. We've got work to prepare for. We've got the washing to do. We've got dinner to cook and eat. We've got, I don't know, we've got a bunch of things to do, right? So it's beginning to get a bit inconvenient. But how much effort are we going to make to get out of the room? Oh, we'll make some effort. Are we going to break a bone? Are we going to risk injury to get out of the room? I don't think so. It's not that big a deal. Now let me just suggest instead that the doors are locked, we're all in here, and a fire starts. Like a proper fire, like a blaze, and there are no sprinklers. Which actually there aren't, are there? So okay, no sprinklers. There's a fire alarm. I don't know if it's a sprinkler. Should we test it? We can try this whole thing. Could someone lock the doors? No. So now there's a fire, there's a conflagration, and it's a serious fire, and we know it's a serious fire. How does that change our attitude about getting out of the room? I mean, whatever it takes, right? These are tough, there's toughened glass. I believe we could break the toughened glass. I mean, I believe we would get out of the room through the ceiling tiles. We'd figure it out, right? Now, let me even suggest something further than that. Let's say we're all on the outside. The doors are locked. Your child is inside. And there's a fire. How much effort are you going to make to break in and rescue your child? Or your spouse or your loved one that's in there? How much effort? I mean, I would dare say, maybe all of us, certainly most of us, would die trying. Right? I think that's make every effort. And the effort I'm talking about here, I mean, I'm using a physical example, but of course we're not talking about something directly physical. And I don't think the point is the physical energy that's being used. I would suggest that when Jesus says to the crowd around him, make every effort, what he's really talking about is focus. Being focused. If there's a fire, the only focus is to get out. We are now not thinking about our bank balance. We're not thinking about our hobby. We're not thinking about what we're missing on TV. We're not thinking about illnesses and headaches and our row with our boss. And we've got to see him on Monday. We have only one focus. And that focus helps us. It helps us to prioritize. And we're not talking about a fire. We're not talking about physical life and death, but we are talking about spiritual eternity. The realities of spiritual eternity. That's what Jesus is talking about here, I think. Focus. There are those who are curious and there are those who are serious. All of us in this room at one level or another are either curious or serious or somewhere along that line, aren't we? We have been, and I think we are. It does take a significant focus to escape the gravitational pull of this world. To escape the gravitational pull of our sin. To escape the gravitational pull of peer pressure. Especially younger people, especially teens, I think. You know, it's true for all of us. But, you know, you're at school, you've got people around you with their priorities, their way of living, and they expect you to be just like you. And if you're not, you are weird. And you're the odd one out, and you may get bullied. It's tough. We've got to think about where it ends. Where does this all go in the end? What about this great banquet? It takes effort, but it's worth it. The focus is much more about the focus than the energy. The narrow door, he talks about the narrow door here. A narrow door, an Irish door here, and up some steps, and if the door is open and there's a big crowd outside, it's Dublin, Shelley, yeah? She knows it well. And I don't know if you know that door, but no, not that particular door. Shelley has known doors in Dublin. But if that door's open, even if there's a big crowd outside and everybody wants to get in, they'll get in, right? But once the door is shut, there's no getting in. And the time is limited. I think what Jesus is dealing with here is the fact that there is time to make a decision and to be serious, to be focused, but that time is limited. And you can look at this whole story in one of two ways, I think. You can look at it as a negative, heavy thing, like, Jesus, that's not fair. Why can't everybody be let in? Why is there only a narrow door? Why is it shut and there are some people on the outside? I mean, come on, it's not fair. You can look at it that way. Or you can look at it as Jesus being compassionate and saying, I'm here to tell you that the door won't be open forever, but the good news is you can go in anytime you like, starting now. The door is open. We sometimes think Jesus isn't fair with us, but I think he is. So, as an example, right? So, I've got a door over here, and I'm going to hold it open, right? So, we got the music, but never mind. So, I'm going to hold this door open. Now imagine, I'm Jesus for the moment, for the illustration. And I'm saying, guys, I know you're all in here and you're having a decent time, but out here, much better time. Out here, banquet, feast. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all the prophets having a fantastic time. It's the kingdom. You really want to be there. I mean, there's forgiveness of sins. There's a clear conscience. There's a hope. There's a future. I mean, eternal life. It's going to heal your marriage. It's going to make a difference between you and your kids. It's going to heal you spiritually and emotionally. And you're going to be a better person. And you're going to have a family. And God's going to adopt you as his son or daughter. And it's going to be amazing. So, come on, let's go. And Jesus is with this crowd, and some of them are like, well, think about it. Just hang on there, Jesus. Hold the door open for us, and we'll let you know when we're ready. Now, I think if it was me, I wouldn't mind holding this door for a minute or two, if you're not sure what you want to do. I wouldn't mind holding it for a few minutes. I might even hold it for half an hour if you're really lucky, and I'm managing to hold back my hankering for a flapjack. But after about half an hour, I'm going to be like, if you really don't want to come, that's your problem. Right? I mean, it's awesome out here, but if you want to stay in there, well, that's up to you. But Jesus doesn't hold the door open for half an hour. He holds the door open for a year, for 10 years, for 30 years, for a lifetime. Your whole life, he's standing there with his foot on the door. Saying, come on! Doesn't matter if you're 13 or 93, but here's the door. I mean, I just think it's incredible how patient Jesus is. Yeah. He's given, I mean, all of us sitting here, we've had all the years we've had so far to make this decision. That's incredible. Jesus is a very patient guy. But in the end, the door will close. And I don't think it's really Jesus that shuts the door. I think it's death that shuts the door. And the thing about that is we don't know when it's coming. We just don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to be melodramatic. It's just true. We just don't know. The door will shut. For the Israelites, I think part of what's going on here, of course, is for the Israelites, the door kind of shut in AD 70. Within the lifetime of many of these people listening, the temple was destroyed. And that was kind of it. Not to say individual Israelites can't be saved, but just the nation of Israel's time was, oh, that door shuts. And it shuts for us. It shuts for our friends too. It shuts for teenagers, even though you think you're going to live for another 120 years. You might, but, The door does shut. See, many are curious, but only a few are serious. Are we going to be amongst those few? Wow. Who really are serious? The point, as someone said earlier, the point is to have a relationship with Jesus. That is the point. Because what does he say? When they protest, but we ate with you, we drank with you, you were in our street. What's the name of your street? My street is Links Way. I would say, no, Jesus, you and I, we were in Links Way together. And he says, I don't know you. He might have said, I know about you, I think I met you, I think you might have been in the crowd, but I don't know you, is what he says. So you see, that's again the difference. And Jane brought up the marriage illustration there. I mean, that's the difference. You can know about somebody, but knowing them, it's a completely different thing. And it's the serious that get to that in a relationship, isn't it? I mean, you can be curious and date a lot of people, but in the end, you've got to get serious if you're going to get married, right? Like TJ and Sonia. That's good news. They're engaged. But you've got to get, at some point you've got to get serious. And it's the same thing coming to church. Coming to church, reading the Bible, praying. It's not just about doing those actions. It's about getting serious about a relationship with Jesus Christ. Amen. And this is what he's urging us to. Superficiality is the ultimate accusation about those who are curious but not serious. Ultimately, they've been superficial. They've been content to have Jesus in the vicinity, but not actually take him seriously. They think that association with Jesus qualifies them. But Jesus says, no, just because you grew up in a believing family doesn't mean you're serious. Just because you came to church all your life doesn't mean you're serious. Just because you know a lot of Bible doesn't mean you're serious. Just because you pray doesn't mean you're really serious. Just because you know a lot of doctrine and can defend it accurately doesn't mean you're serious. It's about a relationship. It's about being serious, not just curious. So, finishing off, are we going to be, I'm going to come back to that. Are we going to be amongst the curious or amongst the truly serious? At the end of this passage, the question has gone from being, will the saved be few, to, will the saved be you? It's about us. There'll be weeping, there will be gnashing for those left outside. The saved will come from all nations and all classes of society. We do have Abraham and the prophets there, but then we have the north, south, east and west, and of course that represents the Gentiles. Jesus is saying the Gentiles are going to be let in. In other words, the people you don't think deserve to be let in are going to be let in. The low, not the high, the last, not the first. The word there, the last, eschatos, meaning the farthest, the last, the latest, the lowest plight people. That's what he's talking about. And sometimes we don't like to talk about this because it feels a bit negative, people being excluded. But I think we have to recognize that the person of sentimentality will avoid the reality of people's lostness. It's easy to be sentimental, and everybody will be fine, God loves everybody. But that's a sentimentality, it's not actually love. But then also the person of judgmentalism will avoid the opportunity to help the less fortunate. Like, yeah, I'm right with God, it's great, I've made every effort for you sinners over there, well, that's your problem, whatever. That's a judgmentalism, that's not helpful either. But Jesus here is blunt, but compassionate. I think that's brilliant. I wish I could be more like that. I struggle with being blunt. Actually, I struggle with being compassionate too. But we've got to grow, right? Blunt but compassionate. That's what we see here in Jesus. So yeah, last slide I just want to share with you is something John Newton said. That's the author of, the chap who wrote the words for Amazing Grace, and he himself was a former slave trader. And he said this about going to be in the kingdom and to be in heaven. I love this quote. The three greatest wonders of heaven will be these. The first will be to see many people there whom I didn't expect to see. The second will be not to find many churchgoers whom I did expect to see. And the third and greatest of all will be to find myself there, knowing what I know of the wickedness of my own heart. This is not a judgmentalism. And let's not be that. And it's not a sentimentality. Instead, those of us sitting here who got into the kingdom by making every effort, I would suggest this is a good reminder that it is about wholeheartedness. It's about giving our whole heart to Jesus, and that makes our relationship with him grow and develop and mature, and it keeps us safe, secure and strong as we not only then stay in the kingdom, if you like, but have what we need to be able to help somebody else find the kingdom. And then for any of us here today, you know in your heart, you've made an effort, you've been curious, you wouldn't be here today if you weren't at least curious. But maybe today, thinking about this, has created in you enough motivation, enough doubt, enough thinking, enough energy to take you from curious to serious. And if that's you, I urge you to talk to someone here today and say, okay, how can I go from curious to serious? How can I make every effort? What would it mean? And look at Jesus and study what it says in the Bible about that. And we will be those in the feast, at the feast, enjoying the feast with Abraham, the prophets, and all those in the kingdom. And it will be a joyous, and amazing, fantastic occasion. And there will be flapjacks for all. Amen.